Okay, greetings everyone. My name is Neo, and I'm here to share some info with the people. I am what is called a personal development consultant and also relationship consultant. I have been studying, observing, and examining relationships for many years now, and researching the mind for the past 3 years minimum, and what the mind is. And also, I have had my own spiritual awakening in a variety of ways. So I had my spiritual awakening start back in, excuse me, back in 2012, sometime around that time. So for me, I like to assist other people with their personal development journey because I've been through mine and my own, and I have resolved a lot of psychological issues that were within myself, and I'm still identifying any other ones that I feel need to be, that are really a threat, most importantly, and I'm resolving them rather than doing what a lot of people do when they just admit that they have issues and insecurities, but they fail to do anything, so they rather just sweep it under the rug. So now my next topic, and welcome to the Committed Relationships and Spiritual Activity show. I appreciate you listening. And now the next topic that I want to speak about is self-reliance, being self-sufficient. Now, self-reliance is, and especially being fully self-reliant, that means being really reliant upon yourself, regardless of how many children you have, regardless how much money you have or don't have, or how many children you do or don't have, and regarding if a person needs to pay rent and they don't have any money or anything like that. A person who has done their personal development work and who has reached an adequate or higher maturity level, they already internally identify the importance of self-reliance by any means necessary. And these are individuals who usually only ask for help if it's absolutely necessary, and they still find ways to be self-reliant even when they do ask for help. And I have been able to identify what self-reliance is after I matured, and that was after I did my personal development work. Here in America, there's a lot of mind control mechanisms that trick parents into delaying their child's maturity level. They delay it, whether they realize it or not. They delay it here in America, delay maturity, and that's why a lot of people, they don't mature until they're well in near their 30s or further, or if at all, because there's still 40, 50, 60, and 70-year-old people who are still immature and still depending on other people in one way or another. And even when, like, say for example, for me, when I moved when I stayed at not my mother, but my sister's house for a few months, I still left my belongings at home, and I only brought a small amount of clothing so that I could avoid giving the suggestion that I'm staying with her. And I only wanted to stay with her just throughout the winter until I get my electricity and everything back on at my current home, or get a new home, because there's still some things that need to be taken care of here at my home here. So depending on whatever happens first, or depending on how my financial situation increases, because that's what I'm focusing more on now, my financial aspect of myself, since I completed a large amount of personal development to fix my mind to the way that I want it, rather than the way that the societal mind control mechanisms have put it. So now for the past few years I've been focusing on that, and that is where most people fail. Is number one, the parents aren't aware of what mind control is, and they're not aware of the top major things that they need to be aware of. That's their ego, number one, and how to manage it. Number two, their mind, what it is and how to utilize it. And number three, their spiritual self and how to access it and get information from it so that they can make wise decisions. And what was the other thing that I said for personal development? There was something else, but those are the top major things that people have to have a good understanding of and know how to deal with them so that they could better mature to a higher level. But due to a lot of parents having children prematurely, and prematurely in a variety of ways, prematurely as pre-maturity, psychological maturity, because here in America, the American society tricks people into believing that they have to have material and career success before they have children. And some parents have it even before they have that. And what's worse is before they actually mature to an adequate or higher level psychologically. So people have been psychologically conditioned to believe that material success measures maturity, and that a person's age measures maturity, and because they look like an adult, they're mature. No, that's wrong and that's backwards. And that's what people have to identify, understand, and fix. That here in American society and probably the world societies, they trick people to doing things first completely false, and also they get people to do things backwards. So as far as maturity, psychological maturity, it's important to focus on your psyche, which is your mind, your mental development, so that you can raise yourself up into an adult. Your parents' job is to provide you a minimum foundation, psychological foundation to build on that is mature. If parents fail to do that, and if an individual, the child, fails to identify and listen to their spiritual self, where they have that spiritual guidance, then they're more than likely going to be a emotional and psychological wreck at some point within their life, regardless of what type of material, career, financial success that they have. And I keep mentioning this because I want to get it across to people so that they understand that they need to avoid and stop measuring financial and material success with maturity, because that comes after maturity. Once a person reaches that high psychological level and has that very good balanced mental health. Because if that mental health is poor, then regardless of all of the riches and all of the material possessions and the celebrity status, whatever, if it's celebrity status that an individual has, at some point they're going to have what I call a life crash, where they just smash into something and then life just smacks them in the face and says, look, you have so much to get together. So start right now and get it together. However, many people have had many life crashes in their lives, and they still are doing the same destructive things to themselves, and also for some people who have children, to their children, because it is the parents' job to actually be a great example for their children as far as leadership, maturity, and responsibility. And the children cannot get that for parents who have not matured yet and who are incapable of passing higher mature advice to their children and giving them a positive example. So that's why now, with me studying for years relationships, I see that even if a child does have both parents or one parent in their life, what matters most is if those parents are mature, wise, and highly responsible, and they have done their duty consistently to pass that information on and be a great example for their child, to raise their child up psychologically. So there's a difference. So for me, I did have receive a basic information, a basic example, and a basic foundation from my mother. Growing up in a single parent household, I got a decent level. However, I realized when I moved out into my own apartment with my own job and my own money and my own free time to do whatever I want, I didn't have to go to them goddamn Jehovah's Witness congregational meetings or any kind of religion. So now I can just focus on me. And that was a time where I secluded myself, put myself into solitary, and I was focusing on myself psychologically, emotionally, and then I was able to identify my spiritual self even more. So that allowed me to resolve all of my main destructive, unresolved childhood issues that I had, and that was starting with my mother. So that was my launching pad even more, that allowed me to do much more things. It allowed me to develop more talents and skills, that which in turn allowed me to have many more options to make money for myself and to do a variety of other things. Now, for an individual who did not receive a good amount of information and examples from their childhood and who failed to do their personal development work, these type of individuals, regardless of their age, they are still immature, they're still whiny, they lack self-reliance, so they're always seeking help from somebody else. And some of them sometimes might say that they want to reach a certain career and a certain money point, a certain money threshold. However, they fail to obtain all of the basics or more levels of talent and skills to get them to where they want to be. That's where personal development comes into play. So if a person doesn't have all of this backing and that psychological maturity, then life is going to be much more of a hell and stress for them, regardless if they have a whole bunch of shoes, they got food in their refrigerator, or anything like that people consider financial or material success. So it makes sense for me, after I did my personal development work and raised myself up, I sat down and started to think about how it makes sense to actually first focus on psychological maturity, which is the parent's responsibility, then have them focus on everything external, like playing basketball or playing the piano or anything like that, or unless the parents or takers are doing both at the same time. However, there's very few people who actually understand psychological development, so they skip focusing on that and developing a strong psychological foundation first. And that's where a lot of people get fucked up when they get up into their careers, or even if they get up into careers, because a lot of people, because they lack maturity and psychological strength and wisdom, they end up having children within their teen years or even their early 20s, and that's a big no-no. You don't want to do that at all. That is still your development stage, and you're supposed to be focusing more on continuing to develop your mind and your brain, because your brain has to develop. That's where people fail to acknowledge, and I acknowledge that due to my higher spiritual self giving me this information and telling me to stay with my mother until my brain matures and until I mature. And that's the reason why I was actually the last person to leave my mother's house, all the way until I was about 22, 23, somewhere around that age when I left. I was the last person to leave and the only person who avoided moving back with my mother. Regardless of me being a few years ago, without electricity, gas, or heat, I still managed to get through that because I knew that as a mature individual, It was my responsibility to be accountable for myself, and I wanted to avoid putting on any burden on my mother at all or anybody else. So that's exactly what I did. So I stuck to myself and just got through those 3 years. And those 3 years, and I was still at a low level back then. Now that I realize I still was at a low psychological level. I wasn't where I was supposed to be. And at that time, I didn't really understand what the subconscious mind was. And I didn't understand how powerful it was and how much I needed to access that if I actually wanted to move to a higher career status and more financial income and anything else that I wanted. But now that I have a much better comprehension of it, now I'm focusing directly on my subconscious mind, and I take full accountability still even more for myself, because I know that it is my own mind that's going to attract and repel anything that is programmed to attract and repel. So there's really no worries about me on my end as long as I consistently program my own mind the way that I want it programmed. And that's why people have to limit their TV viewing and a variety of other things until they are conscious of what's really going on with themselves. And that's why I recommend people to check out the documentary titled State of Mind, the Psychology of Mind Control. It's on YouTube. It's titled State of Mind, the Psychology of Mind Control. That tells a lot about mind control, and people need to watch that, especially if they want to evolve themselves. And teaching them about the mind, and mind control is serious. And that is one goal of the rulers of world societies. They want to remove people's self-reliancy. And I see the evidence of that greatly with a variety of people that I have investigated myself for my own relationship studies. And that is what's going on throughout this world, is their self-reliancy. Many people lack it. A lot of people lack it. So with me, I've been increasing mine more and more, and now I see the difference as far as self-reliancy. It's a big, big difference. And as far as maturity, you will naturally want to be on your own and doing things on your own rather than asking people. So for me, for many years, I've rarely asked anybody for help for anything. And if it was just very little bit. And I always made sure that I did my part to make things successful. And that's another thing that I've studied too, is that there's some people who still lack self-reliancy, and they might have a few things of their own, but when they ask for help, they still don't even realize that they have to make sure that they cover their asses, their end of the bargain regarding the person, dealing with the person that they're asking for help. So it's like you can't jump into something and ask somebody for help when you haven't done your job to make it easy for them to help you out. I've been in situations like that a while ago when people were like that. So it's like people don't want to help people who aren't self-reliant, at least on a basic level, where they're always whining, oh, can you help this? Can you help me do this? Can you do that? It's like, oh my God, that's fucking annoying. So for me, whenever I'm working with anybody, they can actually see how I'm doing a variety of things on my own. And I've been doing that for a while, since I moved out on my own. Yeah, it's very little that I ask for my mother, and the most that I ask of my second oldest sister is to stay at her house for a little while. And when I did stay at her house, it was pure silence. So like on my end, because I knew how to stick to myself and avoid crossing into lanes and creating lane violations. That's what I call lane violations. That's what a lot of people, immature people have not learned, is to stay in their own lane regardless of what's going on around them. And that's what gets them in trouble, and that's what sabotages their relationships. So self-sufficiency is highly, highly important, and it usually naturally comes with maturity. once a person reaches psychological maturity. And once people start to really see that an individual has a high level of self-sufficiency and self-reliancy, then they're more open to work with that individual. And that's how it is with me. A lot of people are willing to work with me and provide me anything that I need to help me move forward, because they know that I've been doing a lot of things on my own to get me to where I am now and to getting me further. So I've been focusing more on myself, my mind, and my other a variety of projects that I have going, and I do my best to keep negative people out of my life and drama, because I know that that's just a distraction. And those drama people are still immature, and they only want attention, and they have not dealt with their psychological issues, resolved them. So they got issues too. So they're gonna always bring drama in other people's lives, and just talk a bunch of crap about people negatively, rather than focusing on themselves and taking accountability for themselves. So really watch out for those people, in particular if you are an individual who wants to achieve something of higher responsibility, rather than sit around with a bunch of negative people. All right, thank you very much for listening. If you have any comments and questions, then you can email me at committedrelationships@gmail.com. That is one word, committed relationships. And also you can check out my site at committedrelationshipsblog.wordpress.com. That's relationshipsblog.wordpress.com. And until next time, thank you very much.